Vin Diesel quietly walked into his own restaurant one night and stopped in his tracks when he heard someone crying. Years earlier, he had opened Torque's in Los Angeles, a high-end but welcoming spot. It wasn't some celebrity side project. Vin had spent years perfecting the menu, hiring the right chefs, and making sure the restaurant felt like a place where both regular people and Hollywood stars could enjoy a good meal together. But Vin also knew that running a restaurant wasn't just about profit reports or packed tables. The real story of a business lived in the kitchens, the break rooms, and in the tired sighs of staff after a long shift. That's why, every few months, he would walk into Torque's like a regular guest. No grand entrance, no spotlight, just him in jeans and a hoodie, slipping in quietly. That night, the place was buzzing. It was Friday, and the dinner rush was in full swing. Servers darted between tables, balancing trays of sizzling steaks and cocktails. The smell of garlic butter and grilled ribeye filled the air, while soft golden lighting gave the dining room a warm glow. Couples, groups of friends, and solo diners all seemed to be enjoying themselves. At first glance, everything looked perfect, but Vin had been around long enough to know that appearances could fool you. He noticed the manager, a tall, stiff man in a navy shirt, standing off to the side. His eyes scanned the room sharply, not like someone guiding a team, but like someone controlling it. The posture felt wrong. Then, as Vin walked toward the bar, he caught it. A faint sound from the hallway near the kitchen. At first, it barely registered, but as he moved closer, the sound grew clearer. Someone was crying, not loudly, not for attention. It was the quiet, breaking kind of cry you let out when you can't hold it in anymore. Vin slowed his steps and turned toward the break room door, left slightly open. Inside, he saw a young woman leaning on the counter, her head down, her hands gripping the metal edge as if to steady herself. Beside her stood another employee in a Torque's uniform, speaking to her in a low, urgent voice, trying to comfort her. Vin didn't know the young woman, but the look on her face hit him hard. Something was deeply wrong, and he wasn't going to leave until he understood what. He turned back toward the bar and sat down, outwardly calm, though his thoughts were racing. That wasn't just the sound of someone stressed from a tough shift. It was fear. Vin knew restaurants well. He'd lived the long nights, the rude customers, the sore feet that never seemed to stop aching. But this felt different. His first instinct was to go over and ask if she was okay. Yet at that moment, he wasn't Vin Diesel, the owner of Torque's. He was just another customer. So he listened. The young man with her, likely another server, and spoke quietly. Vin caught pieces of the exchange. "You can't let him. He doesn't own you." The woman's reply was barely audible. "What choice do I have? He made it clear. If I don't do what he says, I'm gone." Vin's hand tightened around the glass of water the bartender had just set down. At first, he thought maybe it was about a rude guest. But no, her words weren't about a customer. They were about someone inside the restaurant. Before he could dwell on it, the bartender interrupted. "Hey, what can I get you?" Vin offered a small smile. "Just water, thanks." But his mind wasn't on the drink. He glanced back at the manager in the navy shirt. The man stood rigid, arms crossed, scanning the floor with a presence that felt more threatening than watchful. Then Vin noticed something else. The young man from the break room had returned to the floor. His jaw was tight, his hands restless as he adjusted the notepad in his apron. He looked shaken. Vin saw an opening. He stood, walked casually toward the server station where the young man was stacking plates, and spoke in a low voice. "Hey man, got a pen?" The server looked up startled. "Oh, yeah, sure." He handed one over. Vin accepted it but didn't walk away. He glanced at the name tag. "Tyler." "Thanks, Tyler," Vin said evenly. "I couldn't help noticing your friend seemed upset." Tyler froze. His hands tightened on the plates. "She's fine," he said quickly. Vin tilted his head. "She doesn't look fine." Tyler swallowed hard. His eyes flicked toward the manager in navy, then dropped to the floor. After a long pause, he let out a breath. "She's not fine," he admitted softly. Vin studied him. The tense jaw, the restless hands gripping his notepad. The kid wanted to talk, but he was scared. Lowering his voice, Vin leaned in just enough. "Is it a customer issue?" Vin asked quietly. Tyler hesitated. That pause said it all. "No," he muttered. It's not." His eyes flicked toward the front of the restaurant. straight at the manager in the navy shirt, still planted near the hostess stand like he owned the place. Tyler let out a sharp breath, glanced back toward the break room, then shook his head. It's her personal business, it was a lie. Not because Tyler wanted to mislead him, but because he was afraid. Vin had seen this before. Employees stuck in situations they couldn't escape, whether because of money, family pressure, or worse. Vin leaned against the counter, keeping his body language calm. How long has she worked here? A little over a year, Tyler answered automatically, then stiffened. Why? Vin shrugged lightly. Just wondering if she likes it here. Tyler gave a short, humorless laugh. She doesn't, but she can't afford to leave. And there it was. The problem wasn't just stress. She wasn't free to walk away. She was trapped. Vin felt his stomach tighten. Something deeper was happening here. Before he could press further, Tyler's posture shifted, stiffening. Vin didn't need to turn around to know why. The air itself seemed to change. The manager was walking toward them. Everything okay over here? The man's voice was smooth, but edged with authority. Tyler dropped his gaze immediately, pretending to busy himself with the plates in front of him. Yes, sir. Just helping a customer. Vin turned to face him at last. Up close, the man looked mid-40s. Crisp shirt, neatly combed hair, sharp features that spoke of someone who had seen a lot and cared very little. This wasn't just a strict boss. This was someone who enjoyed having control. His name tag read Rick Calloway. Can I help you with something? Calloway asked, polite on the surface but with steel underneath. Vin offered a casual smile. Just needed a pen. Tyler here was kind enough to help me out. Calloway held Vin's gaze without blinking. Good. He clapped Tyler on the shoulder a little too firmly. Let's stay focused on work. Yes, sir, Tyler muttered, eyes glued to the plates in front of him. Vin's jaw clenched, but he kept his cool. Not yet. He thanked Tyler and stepped away, feeling Calloway's stare following him across the floor. As he walked outside, the cool night air hit his face. He stood still for a moment, letting the tension drain just enough to think clearly. One thing was certain, he wasn't leaving. Not until he knew exactly what was happening inside his restaurant. To anyone watching, Vin probably looked like he was just checking his phone. In reality, his mind was racing. Something didn't add up. Emily was terrified. Tyler was nervous. Calloway, he had the look of a man who thrived on control. Vin had seen bad managers before, but this was different. This wasn't sloppy or careless. This was calculated. If he wanted the truth, he needed to talk to someone who wasn't scared. Then, almost on cue, Nate, the bartender from earlier, stepped outside. He leaned against the wall, scrolling through his phone, clearly on a break. Vin saw his chance. He walked over casually, hands in his pockets. Long night? He asked. Nate looked up, startled, then relaxed when he recognized him. Yeah, Fridays are always nuts. Always nuts. Vin nodded, leaning on the wall beside him. Mind if I ask you something? Nate hesitated, then shrugged. Sure, Vin kept his tone light. Your manager, Calloway, what's he like? For just a moment, Nate's face darkened. It passed quickly, but Vin noticed. He's strict, Nate said carefully. Likes things done a certain way. Vin tilted his head. That normal for managers? Nate let out a breath, glancing around as if to make sure no one was listening. Then he lowered his voice. He's not just strict, he's... Nate struggled to find the word, then finally whispered. He makes Emily stay late. Alone. Vin's body tensed. She's the only one? Nate nodded. Yeah, and he's always talking to her like she owes him something. I've seen it, man. The way she freezes up whenever he calls her into his office. It's not normal. Vin's arms tightened across his chest. He knew exactly what this was. A predator hiding behind a manager's title. A man who singled out vulnerable employees and made them feel trapped. Has she ever said anything? Vin asked quietly. Nate shook his head. No, but she doesn't have to. We all see it, Vin exhaled slowly. This wasn't just a toxic workplace anymore. It was something darker, something that demanded action. He placed a hand on Nate's shoulder. Thanks for telling me. You're a good guy. Nate gave a half smile, but his unease lingered. Vin turned back toward the building. Emily was still inside, still under Calloway's control. And now Vin knew one thing for certain. He wasn't leaving. Not tonight, Vin wasn't about to wait. He had seen this pattern before. In Hollywood, he'd dealt with executives who used their power to intimidate and control. He knew how men like that operated. Twisting systems, exploiting fear, keeping people silent. Calloway was no different. His employees weren't just uncomfortable. They were afraid. And at the center of it was Emily. Pushing open the glass doors, Vin walked back inside. The dinner rush was winding down now. Fewer customers, fewer witnesses. But Calloway was still there, standing near the server station, scanning the room like a man guarding his territory. Vin's footsteps were steady. He didn't stop at the bar. He didn't hesitate. He went straight to Emily. She was with a customer, her voice flat, her movements controlled, but her eyes gave her away. They were hollow, drained. When she saw Vin approaching, she tensed, as though bracing for something bad. "Excuse me," Vin said, loud enough for the customer to hear. "I need to speak with you for a moment." Emily blinked, confused. I'm with a customer, sir." The woman she was serving frowned. "She's helping me right now." "You can wait." But Vin didn't look away from Emily. "It's important." Something in his tone told her he meant it. She swallowed, murmured an apology to the customer, and stepped aside with him. Calloway noticed instantly. Vin saw him straighten, eyes narrowing. He didn't like losing control. Emily fidgeted with the hem of her apron as they moved a few steps away. What can I help you with, sir?" Vin took a slow breath. "I know what's happening. You don't need to explain. I just want you to know you're not alone." For a moment, Emily's mask cracked. She looked like she might break. But just as quickly, she forced a brittle smile. "I don't know what you mean." Vin's voice stayed steady. "Calloway, the late shifts, the way he treats you, it's not okay." Her hands curled into fists, her fear showing in the smallest of ways. Fear meant she believed she had no way out. I can't," she whispered. "You can," Vin said firmly. "And you will. 'Cause he's not untouchable." Before Emily could respond, a shadow fell across them. Rick Calloway had arrived. His face wore a polite mask, but his eyes burned with irritation. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was calm, but the warning was clear. Vin didn't turn right away. He kept his gaze on Emily, noticing how she shrank at the sound of Calloway's voice, how her fingers gripped her apron like a lifeline. That reaction told Vin everything. Finally, Vin turned, his expression neutral. "Just having a conversation." Calloway smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Well, Emily has a job to do. She doesn't have time for private discussions." Emily flinched at the word private. That was confirmation enough. Vin shifted slightly, squaring his shoulders, his presence suddenly filling more of the space. "Actually," Vin said, his voice calm but firm. Vin's voice stayed steady. "I think you and I need to have a conversation." "Right now," Calloway's smirk faltered. "Excuse me?" Vin calmly reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and opened it. Inside were his credentials, proof that he wasn't just another customer. He was an executive owner with Tor's Restaurant Group. Emily gasped. The servers nearby froze. Calloway's face drained of color. "My name is Vin Diesel," he said, his tone calm but firm, "and you and I need to talk." The room went silent. Customers glanced over, realizing this wasn't a routine workplace issue. Employees exchanged nervous looks. Calloway blinked, his mouth opening and closing. For the first time, he looked nervous. "Sir, I didn't realize—" "No, you didn't," Vin cut in sharply. "And that's exactly the problem." Then Vin's voice softened as he turned to Emily. "You're safe now." Emily looked at him, almost unable to process what was happening. Her lips parted and a shaky breath escaped. For the first time that night, she straightened her back and stood taller. Calloway squirmed, his unease clear. "Sir, I assure you this is a misunderstanding. If you'll allow me to explain, your office now." Vin's tone left no room for argument. Calloway swallowed hard, his confidence slipping. Without another word, he turned and led the way to his office at the back of the restaurant. Vin followed, but before stepping inside, he turned back to Emily. His voice softened again. "Stay here. This won't take long." Emily gave a small, trembling nod. The office door closed. Calloway tried to recover his composure. He forced a chuckle and shook his head. "Well, I have to say, sir, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Quite unusual for an owner to show up without notice." Vin leaned forward, planting both hands firmly on the desk. His eyes locked on Calloway. "You know what else is unusual?" His voice dropped low, carrying a quiet edge of anger. A manager using his position to bully and intimidate employees. Calloway flinched. I don't know what you mean. Vin's stare didn't move. I know exactly what you've been doing. The late-night shifts. The way you've treated Emily. And I know you think you can get away with it. Calloway's face went pale. Sir, I assure you I've always behaved professionally. If there have been any, save it, Vin snapped. I'm not here for excuses. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone and hit play. Emily's voice filled the office, shaky but strong. If I don't do what he says, I'm gone. Then Tyler's hushed reply, you can't let him. He doesn't own you. The blood drained from Calloway's face. You should have known better, Vin said, his tone colder now. This has been your game for a long time, preying on employees who can't afford to fight back, trapping them in fear. But hear me clearly. You just ran out of time. Calloway's hands trembled. Please, I can explain. No, you can't. Vin cut him off and dialed corporate HR. His voice was calm, final. He's done. Effective immediately. And he will never work in this industry again. Calloway froze, powerless, as Vin walked out the door. Back in the restaurant, the air was heavy with silence. Every server, every cook, every busboy had stopped what they were doing. Emily, Tyler, Nate, they were all waiting. Vin drew a breath and met Emily's eyes. He's gone, he said softly. You're safe. Emily's lips parted. A breath caught in her throat. Disbelief, relief. And then, her shoulders loosened for the first time all night. Nate looked stunned. Tyler's jaw dropped. The other employees exchanged wide-eyed glances, still unsure if they could trust what they'd just witnessed. But Vin wasn't finished. You've all been working under someone who never deserved that position, he said firmly. That changes now. Emily wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. What happens next? Vin gave her a reassuring smile. You tell me. For the first time in over a year, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in that place. Control. She looked at Tyler, still in shock, then at Nate, who gave a small, encouraging nod. She drew a shaky breath. I don't want anyone else to go through this. Not here, not anywhere, Vin nodded. And they won't. From now on, this restaurant is under direct review. Not just replacing Calloway, but changing the system so no one like him ever gets that kind of power again. The room was silent, his words sinking in. Then Tyler stepped forward. Sir, I don't mean to overstep, but this isn't just about Calloway. Vin's eyes narrowed. Go on. Tyler hesitated, then spoke with new conviction. It's the way things work here. The pressure, the fear. People don't speak up because they know they'll lose their jobs. It's bigger than one man. Nate nodded. He's right. A lot of us feel like we don't have a choice. One complaint and you're out. Emily looked down, guilt flashing in her eyes. I wanted to leave so many times, she admitted. But I couldn't afford to. And Vin's jaw tightened. This was why he went undercover. Not for numbers, not for performance reports, but because the real problems were the ones no spreadsheet could show. He drew in a steady breath. That stops today. The room was silent, every eye on him. I don't just want to fix this restaurant, he continued. I want to fix the system. And I can't do it alone. I need your help. That means honesty. That means trust. If something's wrong, you speak up. Emily's voice was quiet. And if we do, will anyone actually listen? Vin met her eyes. I will. For a long moment, she searched his face. Then finally she nodded. And for the first time all night, there was belief in her expression. An hour later, Vin sat in his car watching the last of the employees lock up. Emily stepped outside with Tyler and Nate. They walked together, talking softly, their shoulders lighter than before. Vin exhaled, rubbing a hand across his face. One restaurant, one manager, one fight. But how many more were out there? How many people like Emily were still afraid to speak up? He thought of the reports he had read over the years, the numbers that looked fine on paper, but hid stories of fear and silence. Being a leader, he realized again, was never about profits or control. It was about people, about responsibility, and too often those in power looked the other way. He started the engine, but his words echoed in his mind, words he hoped others would carry with them too. If you ever feel trapped by someone abusing their power, speak up. And if you see someone else struggling, don't stay silent, because sometimes it only takes one person to break the cycle.